Hello everybody, welcome to the channel, Talking with J-Spirit. On today's video, I'm starting my official journey to Rambo Last Blood. Obviously, we're starting at the beginning, and the next couple of days, I will continue throughout the Rambo franchise. Obviously, watching the movie Thursday when it comes out in the UK, and possibly giving you a review Thursday night, if not more than likely Friday. So please do stay tuned. Hopefully you guys enjoy this journey with me, and let's just jump straight into it. Rambo First Blood. This was an R-rated movie coming out in 1982, around 1 hour and 33 minutes long, and is an action-adventure drama movie. Now, the story of this being a war veteran forced by a cruel sheriff and his deputies to flee into the mountains and wage an escalated one-man war against all of these enemies. Let's jump straight into the good points. Now, the good points about this movie, of course, is Rambo as a character. I think he's absolutely awesome, and really, he's just a dangerous soldier who doesn't know how to cope with modern day society at that time, of course. He's had things that have happened to him and others who he's cared about, which don't tend to happen in the real life world unless you are sent into war like this guy has been. And obviously we know he's suffering from PTSD, which is a big thing nowadays, but then really they weren't really advanced in knowing the mentally terms of psychological illnesses back then, really. And he's a character which represents so many people as well. So really, the whole character, he isn't just this action-packed hero which a lot of people just know him for. He really is a relatable character as well. My favourite part of the movie is the third act. I think it really comes down to an emotional, dramatic sequence with obviously the main character Rambo breaking down, a man who suffered mentally as well as physically, just really releasing everything, and it was just absolutely excellently executed. It's unbelievable. People may laugh with this third act and this scene as well because you can't really hear the monologue, but really the pure emotion that goes into this act and this scene in general I'm talking about was just great. Of course, we've got the action in the movie as well, which is awesome. You've got all the explosions, the falling from helicopters and off cliffs, you've got guns, gun firing, you've got kills, you've got everything you want for an action-packed movie. But the thing about this movie is so much more than just an action-adventure movie. With that suspenseful drama type moments in the movie really makes it something so unique and special. The technical side of the movie I think was shot okay. I think also really the editing was the main highlight for me with this movie. It really flowed well, which made the pacing of the movie a nice pace. It sets up Rambo quickly, it sets up the issue for the main characters very quickly, and then everything else just falls into place. It doesn't linger around, it gets straight to the point, which I really do tend to like. Let's go on to the performances, of course. When it comes to Sylvester Stallone, I really do enjoy him in this movie. One of his best performances in his career by far. First Blood was absolutely great. Downright badass when he wants to be, but also adds the emotion, intensity that you need in this type of movie. Brian Dennehy as Teasel was a great character in this movie, really testing the main character. And the thing about these two characters which was so great, both of them could be the antagonist and the protagonist because they're both got rights and wrongs with them. So it's such a great pairing, these two. You have some great moments with Teasel as a character where he purely hates Rambo and he'll do anything for this city which he feels is run properly, when obviously us from the outsiders and the viewers can see it clearly isn't. Richard Crenna as Troutman. Now, Richard Crenna as Troutman was a great addition to the movie. For whatever part he was in, mainly in the third act, of course, being introduced as the sergeant, the sort of mentor to Rambo's character. I think they really introduced him quite well because at that point in the movie, Rambo needed somebody on his side. He felt so alone. He was in soldier mode, pure war mode. He wanted to kill everybody and anything that got in his way. And I think the connection between these two and the chemistry was really great. Especially that scene I was on about in the third act where Rambo just completely breaks down. And this man here, who is a sergeant, seeing this man he's mentored, he's sergeant too, who's been through so much, break down the way he has, just really calls for a great scene, a real moment, and just was purely excellent. Every other character in this movie was in a bad situation pretty much. It calls for some great moments, obviously being killed, a civilian running away or something like that, but also some of the other cops in the movie. I felt that they added some great moments too. Interesting thing is you can see certain sides to all characters. So you can see with Rambo as a character suffering from PTSD, and then or just him being a bullied civilian. Either way, it really works for him. But then you can see from the cops' perspective, they're just protecting the town, protecting the people, and doing what they think's best with this guy who they don't know and thinks a threat, pretty much. I think the script in this movie was very enjoyable, especially for its time. I think it's perfect, and I really think you got some really great catchphrases in there as well, especially with Rambo's character. Jerry Goldsmith's score in this movie is awesome, an 80s classic iconic score for sure, and I remember when my dad used to watch this because he was a big fan of this trilogy. Obviously now it's 4 movies going into 5, but he had the trilogy, and I used to hear this soundtrack constantly because he loved this movie, and hearing it today still holding up in this movie is great, of course. And the last good thing for me in this movie is the fact that this movie can also be inspiring to people. Some people that have been through war, suffer with PTSD, and many even just people in general, because it can inspire people to help people with these situations that they're in. It's just great, and especially with the fact that in that time they could do what they did with this movie, whereas nowadays they'd like to limit certain things or tell the message differently, and I like the fact they went all out in this movie and really done what they did. On to the bad points, of course. Now, there is a few little nitpicky bad points which I can pick with this movie. Now, some of the humour, it can be a bit bland. There's some lines which you think, really? Really? It depends who you are, when you was born. If you watch this movie so many times, so much more than maybe I have, of course, watching it 2 times. Like, let's get the bazooka and stuff like that. It just a bit over the top, over dramatic, and just don't land well. Some of the characters in this movie can be very limited in backstory. Now, of course, they had a certain amount of time, an hour and a half, to bring this story through with this character, really introducing these 3 main characters perfectly, and then everybody else suffered. But even some of the main characters, there was some backstory which I felt they could have added a little bit more depth to, but obviously with the time limit they had, I feel like they used it correctly, but I would have loved to have seen a bit more, especially in Troutman's character. And thirdly and finally, of course, some of the moments in this movie can be obviously unbelievable, that would never happen, and you can nitpick the hell out of these moments throughout this movie, and I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because generally this movie I enjoy, and I just wanted to mention it because it could be a bad point to one of you guys. So guys, it's rating time. Let's have a look at what the critics had to rate this movie. We have IMDb giving it a 7.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes giving it a 86%. And Metacritic giving it a 61. My rating for this movie is an 8 out of 10. That makes this a totally awesome movie. Overall, guys, I think this movie is a classic. It is one of the movies you could just sit back, put on, and just completely enjoy, even with people who ain't a massive action-packed fan, because it really holds that dramatic side, and the storyline is so compelling and interesting, it's unbelievable. And the fact you get Sylvester Stallone, one of my favourite actors, just purely taking out people in that soldier-like way, is just so enjoyable. And another thing is, in my personal opinion, Sylvester Stallone, this is one of his best characters for sure. So guys, an 8 out of 10 for Rambo First Blood. Don't forget to let me know your ratings and thoughts down below in the comment section of this movie. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. And if you enjoyed this review, please do smash the thumbs up button. It helps the video out, helps me out, and helps the channel out, which I'm super grateful for. Guys, consider subscribing and hitting that bell for much more awesome movies and TV series content. We've got so much stuff on the channel. Lately, I've been doing a lot of top 10s when it comes to my personal rankings of directors, actors, actresses, film trilogies, and so much more. Stay tuned on the channel, guys. There's so much stuff to come, just like tomorrow's review for Rambo 2, which I don't want you guys to miss as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been me, you've been you, and I'll see you next time, guys, on Talking with Jay Springett.